Now, nations around the world have witnessed the impressive ascent of women in the movement to liberate Iran. Fighting against the repressive rulers, the Iranian women have emerged as irreplaceable leaders. But as the movement unfolds, we must ask ourselves how deep it runs, where is it heading, where did it come from, and what ripple effects it will have on the individuals around the world. So let's look back and see how it all started. In 1979, there was a genuine revolution in Iran that put an end to monarchy for good. The people revolted against the despotic rule of the Shah, who had a single-party rule, had the notorious secret police Savak that jailed, tortured, and killed intellectuals. I was a student at the time, an activist with high hopes and dreams for freedom in Iran. I envisioned myself as a future engineer that could help build our nation. Unfortunately, the leadership of that revolution was hijacked by the clerics whose despotic agenda was more repression. They installed the absolute dictatorship of the unelected supreme leader. Shortly after the revolution in the summer, while in Iran, I witnessed how the cherished freedom of the people was taken away. Right in front of our house, which is across from the University of Mashhad, the second most populated city in Iran, I witnessed people being beaten up by the government forces. Things were getting worse every single day. The regime drained all the resources of the country into the hands of a newly formed military known as the Revolutionary Guards, whose task was to keep the system in power. The regime misused religion to justify their barbarism in the modern era, including their forced hijab, including lashing and stoning to death of women. Indeed, compulsory hijab, religion, and government are all contrary to the spirit of Islam, which is about freedom and choice. The Iran regime views women as second-class citizens, only relegating them to domestic sphere and childbearing. 86% of the Iranian women of the working age remain inactive in Iran, making them the first casualties of exploitation in the country. Depriving women from participating in the workforce caps the economic capabilities of the country that negatively affects everyone. Since day one, the Iran regime refrained from no savagery to prevent the Iranian women from leading the social change in Iran. Now, let me give you one example. Following the peaceful demonstration of 500,000 people on June 20, 1981 in Iran, the regime executed 12 girls who were arrested during that protest, all of them minors, and killed them without establishing their identities. This is the Satran Etalad newspaper, publishing the pictures of these girls that were taken right after their arrest and before their execution, asking their parents to identify them. During the 1988 massacre of political prisoners, 30,000 were murdered, many of them women, based on a handwritten religious decree by then Supreme Leader, who condemned to death anyone who remained loyal to the main Iranian opposition movement at the time. The killings have continued ever since. Thousands have been killed during the protests in the past 5 years, including minors, including teenagers and girls and women. Now, take a look at the collection of names and particulars of tens of thousands of people who have fallen for freedom. The list includes 13-year-old girls to elderly mothers of several children, from university students and professors to superstar athletes whose only crime was to stand for freedom. The list also includes whole members of a family murdered, including the 9 members of the Alemzadeh family. Among them, 22-year-old Batul Alemzadeh. She was killed along with her daughter and her husband, Ali Ghafouri. Actually, Ali Ghafouri was my best friend, my classmate in high school. We were inseparable in high school. It wasn't enough for us to sit next to each other in the class. Ali would come every single day, walk from far to my house, so we could go to school and back together and talk on the walk. He was full of passion and compassion. He loved sports. We were both on the basketball team. He was a brilliant student that only made me better. And he helped me get to my desired engineering university in Iran. Now, shortly after the revolution, Batul and Ali got involved in protests and political activities against the Iranian regime. The Revolutionary Guards raided their house. They killed Ali and their 1-year-old daughter, Nasreen, on the spot. Batul was arrested while injured. She was taken to prison under torture. She refused to cooperate. Batul was later murdered and executed while pregnant. Now, the murder of Ali's entire family, including their unborn child, had a significant impact on me. It inspired me to continue this path. I'm standing before you today. So tomorrow, no families will be perished, no little girls will be killed, and no pregnant women will be executed. But there is another side to this coin. The desire of the Iranian regime to crush any voices of dissent in Iran utterly failed. Against all odds, a new phenomenon rose in Iran out of the ashes of repression in the country. I've spoken with dozens of female victims who spent years in Iranian prisons, who came face to face with the beast, who underwent excruciating torture and repression meant to crush them and to silence them forever. Instead, I found determined women dedicated to continuing the fight against oppression, not just for themselves, but for the liberation of the whole nation. You know, the torture of women includes, in the Iranian prisons, includes rape. But women political prisoners have turned the prisons into another battleground in fighting the Iranian regime and challenging the rule of the clerics. Yes, that new phenomenon that appeared in the political sphere of Iran was the ascent of women in the leadership for the fight to liberate Iran. But women leadership required and represents a new revolution, which is rebelling against an ideology that is entrenched in misogyny. Thus, Iranian women in the resistance surpassed the outdated notion of appearance and age and embraced determination and embraced the mantle of we can and we must. Now, does women's leadership mean that simply replacing men with women. No. Women's leadership is a revolt against an ideology, a deep-rooted ideology that is built on the exploitation of women. Women's leadership is a revolt against a male-dominated ideology that sees women as commodities that can be owned. This ideology enslaves both women and men. Indeed, the liberation of women is a prerequisite to the liberation of men. This way, men and women can work together to liberate Iran. And this was the process that the women in the Iranian resistance went through and assumed the leadership positions in the movement. Now, it wasn't easy at all. It's a lot easier said than done. But the resilience and the commitment of the women in the leadership of the Iranian resistance over 4 decades paid off. Actually, the 40 years of leadership of women in the Iranian resistance became a role model for the new generation, including the Gen Z, to take to the streets and display incredible leadership and courage. Since 2017, there have been several rounds of uprisings in Iran, people seeking freedom and change in all 31 provinces of the country. The brave women of Iran have been in the forefront of that fight, both showing their courage, but also their leadership to maintaining the focus on where the fight should be when they chanted, with or without hijab, onward toward the revolution, making it very clear that what's really happening inside Iran is about nothing but the freedom of the people and liberating the country for the whole nation. They even elevated the slogans in the streets to woman, resistance, freedom, making it very clear that freedom in Iran can only be achieved through resistance. So, where are we heading? Well, there will come a time that dehumanizing women will be condemned as a dark chapter in our collective past. There will come a time that women will be valued as autonomous with absolute authority to govern their life. There will come a time that no woman will be viewed by their appearance, age, clothing, or private life. Now, how about Iran? Let's imagine an Iran, a free, democratic republic Iran that separates religion from state, that espouses gender, ethnic, and religious equality, free market economy, considers the ballot box as the sole criteria for legitimacy, abolishes death penalty, abolishes Sharia law, supports peace in the Middle East, takes care of its environment, and seeks a non-nuclear Iran. Imagine how an Iran based on this 10-point plan of the Iranian resistance could help dry out terrorism and Islamic extremism in the region and play a positive role globally. Now, what are the chances? Remember, significant changes in the history have all started with a small group of committed citizens, the underdogs. It's now time to recognize the Iranian women for what they are, the force for change that will bring down the most barbaric dictatorship in the contemporary history. Now, I want to close with a personal note. The most amazing experience of my life has been to witness the unwavering dedication of men and women who have given it all for the freedom of their nation. As someone who has gone through that experience, I want to proudly testify that in the struggle for the liberation of Iran, there is nothing more liberating than accepting the leadership of women who have sacrificed everything for freedom. The triumph of freedom over tyranny in Iran is inevitable, and it will be spearheaded by a generation of committed and courageous women who have never collaborated with nor submitted to any despots. Indeed, the liberation of Iran will be a significant and a first fold toward making the world a much better place for humanity. That day will come. Thank you very much.